All right, so let's hop in and let's make some objects. So we already have our graphics window set up and ready to go from 2 videos ago. So we are going to go ahead and jump right in to the programming. So we are going to need 3 different objects here. So I'm going to go ahead and make those different Java classes, and then we'll put the right stuff inside. So we are going to need a player object. We are going to need a gem object, and we are going to need a baddie object. Now, I'm calling those all singular versions of themselves because it's representing one singular baddie. If you wanted to call it baddies, that's fine. Call them what you would like, but something sensical there. Okay, so let's start with our easiest object that we've got here, the gems. So our gems just need to hold a bunch of variables: X, Y, color, size, and value. So let's go ahead and give the gems those variables. So they need an X, a Y, a color, a size, and a value. Once we've made those variables, the other thing that gems need in order to be truly objects and autonomous in that way is the ability to set those variables themselves via a constructor. So we're going to make a constructor for our gem. Remember, constructor is the method to set those variables. So we're going to say public, capital G, gem, and then we're going to pass in a bunch of information. So I'm going to call my inputs X, Y, int C for color, int S for size, and int V for value to keep my inputs as concise as possible. Then I need to set my variables that I've declared equal to the inputs. So we need to say this dot X equals X because input name and variable name were the same. We need to say this dot Y is equal to Y. Again, input name, variable name were the same. From here, we don't actually need this dot anymore because color is the variable, C is the input, size is the variable, while S is the input, and value is the variable while V is the input. I 100% could say this dot here and it works just the same, makes no difference. We just don't need it. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete it for this one. All right, so now our gems could be made. If we wanted to, we could come over here, we could declare that we are going to have a gem object. So we could say gem G1. Inside of our setup method, we could say G1 is equal to a new gem and give it some variables, 300, 300, put it right in the middle of the screen. The color, the color of that, I don't know. Right now, let's use the papplet color generator and let's make it 25500. So our gems are red. I don't remember if that's what they are from my original video, but this is just a tester. Then we need to make them have a size, so let's make them, 20, and then finally a value. Let's give them a value of 1 for the moment. So all this is going to do is make a singular stagnant rectangle show up on my graphic screen, but it is in essence a gem variable nonetheless. Oh, gotta draw it. Ha, that's funny. Didn't do that part. So we got to go ahead and then draw that gem variable. So if I was going to draw it, I would fill with g1.color to make sure I've got the right color set, and then draw the rectangle at g1.x, comma g1.y, comma g1.size, and g1.size again, because we're just going to let it be a square for right now. Okay, now that I actually have something inside of my draw method, I should see that red rectangle show up. I've got a single gem. Woohoo! Okay, great. Now let's go make our baddies. So our baddies needed to have those same variables except with the difference of damage there, and they also needed a method to move along a specified path. We're not going to fill in that method now, but we want to give them the ability to have that method. So first thing up, all of the variables they're going to need: X, Y, size, color, and damage. Then let's make that constructor so that our baddie can set itself or set its own variables. And I'm actually going to go change one thing. Inside of my gem, it's a little bit confusing right now that I put the color after the size. So I'm going to fix that, and I'm going to fix that here. Oops. We want to be consistent, and it actually makes more sense to do X, Y, size first, then do the aesthetic stuff later on. Okay, so now that's the way we actually mean for it to be, and our baddie matches. So again, we're going to set the variables equal to the input, so we need this dot x equals x, this dot y equals y. From here, we don't need it anymore to say this dot, so we can just say size equals S, color equals C, and damage equals D. So now we've set all of those. Now, the other thing that I said that my baddies might need would be the method to move. So I'm going to create a method. So I'm going to say public void move. And I'm going to put nothing inside of that method for now, but I know that eventually maybe my baddies will want to be able to move. So let's leave that method blank, knowing that it's there and available. All right, now let's check out that our baddie variable worked out the way we wanted it to. So let's try that one out. So we'll make a B1 variable that is of the data type baddie. This is just a test to make sure that these are all working as quickly as you can when you first make these. Let's make our baddies be a little bit bigger. For right now, their color is going to be blue, and their damage will be 2. So it'll take away 2 of your lives. Let's just say for now. So once we fill with the right color for our rectangles, then we want to fill with B1's color, and then draw the rectangle at B1. Cool. So now when we run it, we should see a red rectangle and a blue rectangle. Gem, baddie. Both stagnant, super boring right now, but at least they exist. And finally, last but not least, we have our player. So our player, again, is going to have 5 variables. It's going to have a method for collision detection and a method to reset the position. So let's go make our player. X, Y, size, probably got to also have a color. And then it's going to have lives. So then we'll make the constructor. After our X and Y, we no longer need this dot, so I'm going to go ahead and not use them. Again, totally could. Doesn't make a difference, though. Okay, and then my player object has 2 different methods. A method for checking for collision and a method for resetting the position. So now, to reset the position, I'm probably going to want to keep track of the X and the Y that are here. Or we can just think about the fact that resetting means we're always going to go back to that top bottom left corner. And so we could just set the reset method like that. And that part is up to you. So here, public void reset. I'm going to let that method just be like, I don't know, X equals, what would that be then? 0 for my X, and Y is equal to slightly less than 600. So let's call it 580. Or you could really do the math using the size variable if you wanted to there to reset. Okay, so resetting that position could be as easy as that. If you wanted it to be that it resets back to whatever was the initial passed in information, we're going to have to keep track of the passed in information beyond this moment. Remember, these 2 variables that are input only exist inside of this method called player. They will not exist down here. X and Y that we're talking about are these variables. Those variables X and Y are going to change as the player moves. So if you reset to whatever X and Y currently are, that doesn't mean that they're moving at all. So if we want to keep track of the original X, we could keep track of that by saying original X, original Y. and have those be variables that are also set equal to x and y, and then we just never touch those again throughout us playing and moving our player. So original x is there, and original y is the y that gets input. So then we can reset our x back to that original x and reset our y back to that original y. So we no longer have to keep track of, where is this player starting from? It'll just put them back to wherever their start position is. So that way you could have multiple players with different start positions. They would reset to their own start positions, things like that. So I've done this one here. In later videos, you might see the hard-coded version again, just preference of going back and forth or for ease of code and ease of variables. But that's available to you as well. Now, the other method that we're going to need here is a public void collide method. And for right now, I'm going to leave this method totally blank again. Maybe once I think later on through this method, I'm going to actually want to put some inputs into that collide method. And I might also not want it to just be a void method. I might want it to return something. That's decisions for later me to make. So I'm going to go ahead and leave it empty. Last thing that I want to do is check that my player variable or my player object came together okay. So let's make a player. All right, it's going to have an x position, xy of 0, 0. Its size, let's make the player be the biggest one right now. Its color is going to be green. And it's going to have 10 lives when we start for our player. So then we're going to go ahead and fill with p1.color and draw a rectangle at p1's x, p1's y, and then p1 size twice over. All right, and now when we run it, we should see all 3 of those rectangles at their various locations. Beautiful. So we got a player, we got a baddie, we got a gem. That's your first one.